design. Everyone was on board with that. The county council, and of course, agreed with it was the cheapest, best solution for this location. So I think everything kind of came together that way. Okay, so now once these guys are off and running, and now they can start designing this bridge and doing a lot of the technical work that needs to be done, we could shift gears with the PAC committee and start focusing on some of the aesthetic stuff, the fun stuff. So one of those items, I'm just going to run through a couple of those, was the lighting. And you can see a rendering here what the lighting might look like. Obviously the columns will be uplit. Wanted to go again, we want a historic look, so in terms of the decorative lighting, this was is it Metroscape? The Metroscape pole that was selected. That's also an LED fixture, so it's both it's environmentally friendly as well, and lower cost in terms of maintenance and such. Also selected the color. We gave color temperatures. Do we want this to be more of a cool color temperature or warm color temperature? And they selected warm, of course, just because that had a more historic look to it. The next meeting, again, we met every month and covered topics such as this. Selected pier and overlook styles. We gave them a number of different pier shapes that didn't affect what these guys were doing design-wise. Diamond shapes and such, and different treatments with coquina and different overlays. So this is the selected treatment that you see here, is on the boards, and then the overlook style, again, kind of that squared off style is around it. The overlooks, we'll talk about that a little later, have a nice opportunity for the plaques that you see behind you along the back wall. The other element, as you saw in that last image, and it was very important to the committee, that, again, to have that local flavor, that local feel, was the implementation of coquina somewhere on the bridge, and that became a fixture at the base of the columns. When you talk about coquina, though, what is coquina? So we started doing some research, and certainly we looked at all the Daytona beach examples, and they vary in appearance, color, texture, and so there really is no standard for coquina. So it was, what do we want our coquina to look like? And so we did kind of go through that process with them. We looked at different colors, we looked at different patterns. A rough stack pattern is what we went with, and there's a sample of that over on the table next to the bridge model if you guys want to check that out. And then again, the color will vary from stone to stone slightly, but it'll stay in that kind of warm color temperature. Also along where the bridges end, there's on the west end of the bridge, not on the east end, there's some of this wall. And I know you guys have seen this all over the interstates. This is MSE wall, mechanically stabilized earth. And this is kind of the typical pattern, or the typical pattern layout, or panel layout, I should say, that they use. We tried to go with something different. There's a block wall system that we've proposed, and you can talk a little bit about if that's going to be.
Sure. It's a newer system. It's called a segmental block wall, and it's not as big. You know, instead of having these big 5x5 panels, they're much smaller, so it looks more of a landscaping type feel. But it's an approved structural system, and the added benefit is that it's also lower cost than the MSE wall because it's just smaller and easier to handle. So the PAC committee really embraced that wall type.
And we went through, in terms of and with this, we also went through color, and they have different options there, and they selected the color. A sample of that is to this side of the model over there as well. It's called Cocoa is the color that's chosen. Okay, so PAC number 8, Veterans Memorial Plaza. I wouldn't have thought it coming in, but this was the most interesting and passionate debate that we had over those months, a year or more. I showed actually 3 options. Here's option A and option B, and that meeting went on for I think 2 hours, and I think, which is fantastic by the way. I think I love the energy. I love that everybody was so excited about these different options. The problem is that no one could come to a decision on which one we should do. So it was a split decision between option A and option B. Josh refused to be the final vote because he's a good politician. Anyway, he didn't want to make the decision, and I think that was the right call. I think so. What they did is they sent us back to the drawing board to come up with option D, which was basically a hybrid between the two. Some of the features of option B that everyone liked was the spine down the middle, which is the spine you see that runs down between you here, with all the names of the fallen soldiers from Volusia County. And in that one, that was more of a trench design where the focal point was that. The other one was more of an amphitheater, which would be more appropriate for events at different points of the year. Ultimately, we wanted both. The committee wanted both, so that's what we gave them. So this, again, this design was born out of their input. And came back with option D that was unanimously approved because it had everything we wanted. Pack 10, we talked about railing designs. There were some standard railing configurations that FDOT uses. We looked through those. I think everyone, again, throughout the process, economy was as much a decision point as aesthetics or anything else or preference. And so with all these decisions, they were very cost conscious. And that was the cheapest railing. They thought it was appropriate. It's a simple black rail with some post picket design, so that was selected. One thing I want you to notice about this facility, again, right off the bat, we wanted this to be a pedestrian-friendly structure, even though it has to go higher. We want it to be friendly for the community and for pedestrians, bicyclists, and so forth. So as opposed to the bridge you see out here, which is a lot of concrete, a lot of lanes, and cars flying at 50, 60 miles an hour in a 5-foot sidewalk, we wanted to be the opposite of that. We wanted to be a pedestrian facility first and also service cars. And so you kind of see that in the travel. You have, instead of a 12-foot lane, you have 2 11-foot lanes, so it's compressed there. You got 5-foot shoulders that can be used for cyclists if need be. Sidewalk standard 5 feet was pushed to 8 feet to give more room in there, and for bicyclists if it needs to be. And then there's, at every overlook, every pier location, there's an overlook that provides an additional 4 feet of refuge. Those overlooks are also coordinated with flat spots on the profile, so it's essentially it's a landing right at the overlook, which is flat. And while we talk about that, go ahead.
One of the things that was clear from pack meeting number 1 is we really wanted to do something different in terms of ADA and provisions that we could add to this project to make it really unlike any other project. So we really went, I'm going to say, above and beyond. There are rules, there's all kinds of rules of things you're supposed to follow and do, and certainly we've met all those, but we really took it multiple steps beyond that for this project. We, as Adrian mentioned, this is a requirement that because of the steepness of the bridge, because we're greater than 5%, that you have to have a landing, a flat spot that you can stop at every 23 to 27 feet on our project. We flattened the overlooks. We added charging stations throughout the bridge because it is a steep bridge. If you're in a mechanical wheelchair and you're running low, you can have a place to recharge. The plaques, which Adrian will get into, that you see over there a little bit later, they're going to have Braille, so you can read the content of the plaques on there. So we really were looking, and I would say, I'm going to say most of these ideas were born from the pack, not from us. I mean, we can't take credit for these. We had just great recommendations of things that we could do to really make this a pedestrian-friendly facility and really exceed expectations. Here's a profile or a schematic of the landings in orange. Basically, we have the 5-foot landing area every 25 feet or so, and that's where you could stop and take refuge. So that was that. We do have ADA hand railings on both. You go for it. Both sides. There's hand railings that follow the sawtooth pattern of the sidewalk. And as Adrian mentioned earlier, we really did open up the sidewalks. We increased it 60%, 5 feet to 8 feet, to really give not only for cyclists but for pedestrians, just to provide room. That with the plaques, there's going to be people stopping at the plaques and the overlooks and looking out at the view and reading the plaques. So we really wanted to open up that 5-foot sidewalk.
Okay, so these are the fishing piers, and I think some of you may have seen them. They're on the model as well. Basically, on the west side, you have a T-shaped design. On the east side, you have a similar that runs out towards the old channel where there's some deeper water, and better fishing. Another feature that's important here on the east side is the ability. We were very concerned, the committee was concerned about safety in terms of crossing over. One of the elements, again, with these plaques is that it's a circuitous route that travels over the bridge or around to the other side and then back over, and to get the full timeline of the plaques. And again, we were envisioning school trips, and children coming, and certainly safety is of great importance in that instance. So we wanted to provide a way to get to the other side of the bridge without going across the roadway or traveling down the end of the bridge. So tagging on to the fishing pier on this side, we were able to bring another arm of it around and back up to the other side so you can travel across without crossing traffic. Another thing to point out that's important is, like everything, we wanted to go above and beyond with ADA. We have a number of locations along both of the fishing piers that have lowered railings, for wheelchair access. So this is kind of just a summary of the PAC recommendations. I mean, you can't read it. I think, again, the message has been loud and clear. Like, they were a fantastic group to work with. I think they did a tremendous job of representing the best interest of the community and making smart fiscal decisions in that process. And I think it was just a wonder. It was a joy to work with. And there's a story about a project in St. Petersburg, where I live, about a pier being replaced in downtown St. Pete. And that project, I talked to the architect on that project, and she said to me, like, it can't be done. You can't do this. You can't work with a committee. You can't legislate design. And I said, yes, you can. And we're doing it in Daytona, and it's a fantastic project. And we have a better outcome based on that than we would if just us contributed to it, or the county, or the city. It really has been more information.